So this isn't my first drone movie. About a year ago, I saw Good Kill with Ethan Hawke, and I thought, this sounds interesting, only to discover an incredibly horrible and boring movie. Then on top of that, Gavin Hood is the director of this movie, and he, of course, is responsible for the atrocities, Ender's Game, which wasn't so bad, but wait for it, X-Men Origins Wolverine. So, yes, I had little faith in this film going in. Why did I go and see it? Well, I really wanted to support Barkhad Abdi from Captain Phillips. I feel really bad, a lot like Taraji P. Henson after her Oscar nomination a couple of years ago, that neither one of them can get any work after the fact. I know it's tough out there for all actors, but it seems to be particularly tough for African-American actors. And I think that in particular with Barkhad Abdi's situation, I think unfairly he's been categorized as stunt casting for Captain Phillips and not as a legit actor, even though he, again, has an Oscar nomination. So I find that very frustrating, wanted to support the guy. And I'm so glad that I did, because the movie is really, really good. It makes me feel that perhaps Gavin Hood, coming from South Africa, had to do what what many directors do in trying to transition into Hollywood, and that's take the big scripts that come their way. Don't say no. But that's really, it's a tough course to navigate, because I think in not saying no and in saying yes to big projects, Gavin Hood has really wrecked his reputation. And maybe he should have taken a little bit of a closer look at the scripts for these properties, although often, as we all know, when people sign on to them, a script often isn't in place. But the script he's been given here by Guy Hibbert is excellent. Now, Guy Hibbert has mostly written for television, but this doesn't feel like a TV movie at all. It's very well done, very complex, and it's an excellent depiction of modern warfare. And I also like that it was very honest, but also that it didn't tell you whose side to pick. I don't even think it asks you to pick a side. It just presents the situation as it is, and it's up for you to pick who maybe you gravitate towards most, or just to assess the situation on your own. I mean, the movie very much makes you a part of this conversation. So what is the movie about? Well, it's about a mission to, they've been tracking a British national who's decided to defect to terrorism. They're tracking her and her husband, and they have a drone to help them do so from the United States. So the UK is leading the operation, but it's a joint operation with the US for our drone capabilities, and then also Kenya, because that's where they've tracked this woman to. So they need Kenyan special forces on the ground to help them out in that region. So to see the way countries work together, and the environment that creates, both militarily and political, is fascinating all on its own. So I really enjoyed that as well. But I also appreciated about this movie, I have my notes here, that the cast, like The Martian, was incredibly diverse, but they never made a big deal about it. They never even acknowledged it. They weren't like patting themselves on the back being like, oh, isn't this nice? Isn't this how it should be? They said, this is how it is. And I really, really appreciated that, because I feel in large part that is how it is, right? I mean, certainly if you were going to have the UK, the US, and Kenya doing operations, I think it would very much look like this. And so I appreciated the diversity, and that they didn't acknowledge it, and that every single person was just presented as a capable professional. No one was playing stereotypes. Nobody was there to be, to represent a demographic, and I really, really appreciated that. Now, as for the core cast, I'd like to stress, though, that everyone in the movie does a fantastic job, right down to the smallest role. But, of course, we have our 4 stars. Helen Mirren, always good, of course. I think she's a very good actress at walking the line. If you've seen her in Trumbo recently, you would know that. Speaking of Trumbo, that's also a Bleecker Street a film as well, same distributor. We'll talk about them at the very end of this review. But I think Helen Mirren is very good at portraying complex individuals that, spend some time on both sides of good and bad. I also really liked seeing a woman in a professional position of power that wasn't like, yeah, feminism, When you think about her and Amanda Waller in Suicide Squad, it's just really nice to see these depictions of women, not as like, oh, who's that sexy woman in charge, but, oh, who's that person in charge? It happens to be a woman, and she means business, and she's good at her job. So I appreciated that quite a bit. Alan Rickman, You know, it's so sad to see this movie after his passing, but he just proves, of course, what a professional he is and how much he brings to a role with flair. I mean, he has a lot of style as an actor. And the reason I bring that up is because when we moved to Barkhad Abdi is an incredible natural actor. He seems so real, like he almost seems like he's part of a documentary. I mean, he's that organic in his craft. And I think that's working against him. I think, because he doesn't have the flair of Alan Rickman, I think that doesn't make casting directors, excited to cast him, I think he's just looking for the right role. Who doesn't remember the line, "I am the captain now"? Barkhad Abdi sold that, so he just needs to be well cast. Quentin Tarantino, save this man's career. But anyway, he's very understated in his role here, but he's just very, very good. So it also, I was happy to see, proves that, it wasn't stunt casting, it wasn't that Captain Phillips just was something that he could do. He's an actor. And then Aaron Paul is the other big name in the movie. I think this is the best thing I've seen him do after Breaking Bad, but his role is small. He doesn't have much room to make an impression, but I think he did a very good job with what he had. So I thought this was just a fantastic movie, and I think that the most important thing that it did was depict modern warfare in a very fair and realistic fashion. And it also, again, as I said, put you in the room, and constantly were you not only on the edge of your seat about what was going to happen, but you were constantly asking yourself, what would I do? What would my decision be? Because that's the big reveal, that it becomes potentially a kill order, but there is a civilian in harm's way. So is one life worth the lives, worth endangering the lives that would be saved if you took out these terrorists? Very complex question, no easy answer, as the movie shows, and you constantly change your opinion based on the new information that they're getting throughout the film as the situation evolves. So it's just as good as it sounds. Finally, I want to touch on Bleecker Street. I'm going to talk about them in Movie Math today as well. This was a big win for them this weekend in limited release. Bleecker Street, I have yet to see them put out a bad movie. I didn't see Danny Collins, to be fair, but we're talking Beasts of No Nation, Pawn Sacrifice, Trumbo, and now Eye in the Sky. This is a very quality distributor, and they are worth watching, not only as they rise to the top at the box office and start to get some wins there, and they did very well during award season with Trumbo, but I think they're someone to watch, because if they're distributing a movie, I think it's worth a look. At least so far. I'll let you know if my opinion on that changes. So that's my review of Eye in the Sky. Thank you so much for discussing this movie with me. I look forward to continuing the discussion down below, and you can check out some other episodes right now.